Good to see you here again. Join us in this new video from the Wedded Wisdom channel.
Have you ever lived through that moment when a conflict happens? Harsh words are spoken, a wrong attitude lingers in the air, and deep down, all you expect is one simple thing, that your spouse will look you in the eyes and say, "I'm sorry." But time passes, night comes, silence takes over, and nothing happens. The next day arrives, and instead of a sincere apology, what you get is just an attempt to move on, as if nothing ever happened. You feel invisible, as if your pain has no weight. And it's in that silence that one of the greatest threats to marriage begins to grow. Pride. Pride is like a slow poison. It doesn't kill instantly, it doesn't scream, but it corrodes everything from the inside. It builds invisible walls. It convinces a person that saying "I was wrong" is weakness, when in reality it's one of the greatest acts of strength. Pride blocks humility. It prevents someone from stripping away their ego and admitting fault. And that blockade, left unchecked, begins to rot the marriage from within. Have you noticed how some people seem incapable of saying "I was wrong"? It doesn't matter if it's something small, forgetting a promise, snapping with a rude tone, or something bigger like betraying trust. The apology never comes. Instead, you get excuses dressed up as explanations or simply a cold silence. And when this pattern repeats, the marriage begins to bleed in places no one can see. The most painful part is the feeling of being devalued. When an apology never comes, it feels as though your emotions don't matter. You start to wonder if maybe you're exaggerating, if expecting an apology makes you too sensitive. But it's not sensitivity, it's respect. Because when someone hurts you and refuses to acknowledge it, what's at stake is not just the mistake itself, but the dignity of your heart. Pride in a marriage is sneaky. It turns what could be resolved in minutes into a cold war that lasts days, weeks, even months. How many couples have you seen fall into silence, not because of the original issue, but because no one wanted to say, "I'm sorry"? What started as something small becomes a mountain of resentment. And when pride grows larger than love, the marriage begins to crumble. Maybe you're there right now, tired of waiting for recognition that never comes. At first, you told yourself it wasn't worth the fight. You let it go. But deep down, a seed of resentment stayed. And every time it happened again, that seed grew bigger. Until one day, you realize the person who once promised to love and protect you feels distant, unwilling to admit mistakes. And that creates something more painful than any argument: emotional abandonment. It's like living next to someone but feeling completely alone. So what can you do? How do you deal with a spouse who refuses to apologize? Here's a truth that stings. You cannot control someone else's pride. You cannot force humility out of a heart that resists it, but you can control your response. You can choose whether or not their silence steals your peace. That doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or pretending everything is fine. It means setting healthy boundaries. It means recognizing when actions speak louder than unspoken words. Because sometimes the apology never comes in words, but in gestures. A gentle touch, a small act of kindness, a change in behavior. It's not the same as saying "I am sorry," but it might be their way of reaching out. Of course, that's not enough to replace a spoken apology, but it can be a bridge. The question is this change genuine or just a way to sweep things under the rug? That's why forgiveness cannot mean silence. Forgiveness doesn't mean ignoring. Forgiveness means choosing to release resentment, while still standing firm in truth. This is where firm dialogue comes in. Too many people think forgiveness is swallowing their feelings. But that's not forgiveness, that's suppression. Real forgiveness walks hand in hand with truth, and truth must be spoken. You have the right to say, "When you act this way and never apologize, I feel disrespected. I want us to handle this differently, because our marriage deserves more than silence and pride." That's not accusation, that's awareness. It's showing your spouse the impact of their silence. And why is this so important? Because a marriage doesn't survive on perfection, it survives on humility. Not on the absence of mistakes, but on the ability to recognize them, ask forgiveness, and begin again. Humility rebuilds what pride destroys. And never underestimate the power of a sincere apology. Those words, "I'm sorry," spoken with honesty, can melt weeks of coldness in an instant. They can rebuild trust, restore respect, and spark affection again. But until that apology comes, you must guard your heart. Don't let bitterness chain you down. Forgiveness is not saying "it's okay." It's not approving what happened. It's deciding that your pain will not control your future. It's releasing the weight, even if the other person never admits fault. When you forgive, you free yourself. When you hold on to bitterness, you become its prisoner. And I won't lie, it's not easy. Forgiveness demands strength, it demands faith, it demands maturity. But that step is what separates those who stay trapped in the past from those who walk free into the future. Maybe right now you're waiting for an apology that never comes. And I want to encourage you, don't let someone else's pride kill your peace. Be firm in your limits, speak the truth, express how you feel. But don't let their lack of humility poison your heart. Marriage is the union of two imperfect people trying to build something eternal. Mistakes will happen, words will hurt, actions will fail. But the difference between a marriage that thrives and one that dies isn't to the absence of mistakes, but how they are handled. If pride has the last word, the relationship falls apart. But if humility steps in, even the deepest wounds can heal. So don't wait only for the other to change. Do your part, guard your heart, set your boundaries. Value real actions over empty silence. And above all, choose forgiveness. Because forgiveness frees and pride enslaves, and a marriage only flourishes when humility speaks louder than pride.
Thank you for staying with us until the end. Truly, from the heart, if this video touched something inside you, I invite you to share it with someone special. Subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Each one crafted with care, for everyone who believes true love is worth fighting for. Take a look at the other videos on the channel, filled with messages that nourish the soul. See you in the next one. Take care. And take good care of the one by your side.